Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Welcome back to Game Over Ottawa. It's been a while. It's been I don't know. Yeah, it's a while. It's been
Almost a year. We are
it's
finally
been
back.
it's been almost a year. A couple of familiar faces for everybody tonight. Obviously, if you've been following along, you know the Game Over has expanded quite a bit since the announcement of the relaunch. We have 3 new members in Ottawa, but for tonight, thought the I don't know, the veterans should handle the first game of the season. So Charlie and Maude with you again for the first time in what is far too long. But before we get into everything, just want to point out the fact that number one, Game Over is relaunching. Obviously, it's been relaunched. We're up and running. It's going really, really well so far. And as you can see, if you're taking a look at all the different channels that we have, obviously there's the hub channel, there's the channels for each individual market. It's not just going to be the post-game shows anymore. We have daily shows Monday through Friday for every market called Game On. And of course, on the hub channel, we have the flagship show Hyperdrive Hockey hosted by Max and Daphne, and of course, producer Kevin. So if you're looking for just a general hockey show, that's going to cover everything from NHL, PWHL, juniors, European leagues, whatever it might be. That's the show for you. It's going to be coming out, I believe, twice a week. So go check it out if you haven't heard. That Game Over isn't just a post-game show anymore. There's plenty to be seen everywhere. So I think we just got to, yeah, I think we just got to get straight to the game. We got to get straight to the game.
Before we do that, I want to shout out our new members of the team as well.
Of course,
Michael Char, who has started doing the daily news for our channel. Monday through Friday, going to be giving you all the Sens updates that you need to know before the games and on the off days when there is no game as well. And we are also going to be introducing Damian Smith and Nick Robinson to our live post-game shows, doing the classic me and Charlie here tonight, but you will be seeing them in the upcoming games as well. So super excited to introduce them too.
Yeah, I believe the first site for either Nick and I think Damian's on the Habs game with Andrew on Saturday night, I believe. Yes. So anyone watching, if you want to see one of the new hosts, you can do that very, very soon, in just a couple of days. So I really want to talk about a specific player, but we're going to hold off. We're going to look at the game as a whole. So just to outline something really, really quick. First of all, actually, I should get straight to this. It brings me so much joy that we're back in general. I love that. It's wonderful. But specifically, I have missed hitting this button so much.
Oh, yeah. It's time.
Florida Panthers, defending Stanley Cup champions, you just got sensed.
They got sensed and they got all-marked as well, which is a new one. That's a new one for us.
They mostly got all-marked. We should make a new button.
Yeah, the all-marked button. Oh my god.
We're gonna talk about all-marked, but I just want to talk about all-marked. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game as a whole. So, a very different first 20 minutes from the final 40. From a Sens perspective. I guess from a Florida perspective too. So the Sens finished the first period with 17 shots and did not put that many together in the next 2 periods combined. From your perspective, was this just like watching the team kind of be bad in the second period again, as is tradition for quite a while now, or is this just mostly Florida realizing, oh yeah, we're an elite team, and they started like? Is it more Ottawa stopped playing well, or is it more Florida went, oh yeah, right, no, we're like a really good team?
It's probably a bit of both. Obviously, the second period was the Achilles heel last season, and the second period was bad today, but I felt like the third period was even worse. So I can't specifically say that it was the second period curse being the big problem. Like after that second period, it was starting to get a little bit sketchy because we weren't generating any offense, but for the most part, we were keeping the Panthers to the outside in the offensive zone, and they weren't getting too many shots on goal. But boy, that third period is just where it looked like it was all gonna fall apart. Luckily, it didn't. But yeah, the first period, the Sens, they always seem to show up and just come flying out of the gate in the last
Yeah.
few home openers, eh? Like, I remember the home opener against the Flyers last year. I think we scored a couple goals in the first period as well. And that crazy one against the Bruins 2 years ago. I think we took a 3-0 lead in that one too. So the Sens, they really like to show up and play for the fans in that first game of the year. I felt like after that first period, maybe they thought it was going to be a little easy. What do you think?
I don't know. Like it felt, I don't know. I think it's just because I got Sens brain and I'm just like focusing so much on one side of the ice more than the other.
Yeah,
It just
that's
went
hard.
from it just went from being like, because I'm trying to focus so much on this team and especially the newest additions to mostly the depth pieces that came in. And I don't know, it looked like a completely different team in periods 2 and 3, but I also want to give the proper credit to Florida for just playing a really, really solid second and third period. Past that, I don't know how I want to frame this, because like I'm trying my best to avoid, because we have, as you can see for the viewers now, we have a little, I can't do it actually because it's on your side of the screen for me. I can't point it out, but we're doing our best to break this off into segments. We don't want to be quite as rambly. I say we, mostly me. I've been known to be very rambly, and I just kind of start talking and I don't shut up, and there's no real direction of the show. So we're trying our best to stick with specific segments. So as the game as a whole, God, like,
I'll put it this way. I feel like I don't want to be too hard on them after the first game of the year, especially
yeah,
because they won. And when you look at the overall stats, if you didn't watch this game at all, you'd see the shots were almost even and you'd be like, oh, it was probably a pretty back and forth game. Personally, the first period was amazing, and the rest of the game made me feel like I was watching like the Canadian Division Senators when
oh,
they started like 0-8-1 or
oh,
something like that. Like that's what it felt like,
yeah,
with the inability to get the puck out of the zone and everything. But again, I don't want to roast them too hard because it's just the first game of the year under a new coach too. I'm sure they're still
yeah.
getting used to what Travis Green wants them to do. After watching that game, I'm not totally sure what Travis Green wants them to do on the breakout because it looked like a mess every single time. Uh, what were your thoughts on the breakout today? Because I felt like it was almost never working.
I- yeah, I think I don't want to make everything go. I don't want every topic that I talk about to be like it worked in the first and then it stopped working. But I
It's
just
kind of true
notice,
though.
just in that second period, they could not get through the neutral zone at
Hmm.
all. Eventually in the third period, they kind of managed to figure out that like, oh yeah, that's right, we can hold possession for more than 5 seconds in the offensive zone. But that second period specifically, they were not getting through that neutral zone at all. And again, like I don't want to be total Sens brain. I don't know if it's mostly them just struggling with the breakout or Florida putting together a really, really strong defensive game. Um, yeah, it was
Yeah,
not, the breakout game was just brutal.
I think Florida's forecheck was really strong, and also their neutral zone positioning. Like it seemed like when we did get the puck out of the zone, we would just barely get it over the blue line, and then a Panthers forward would be right on top of our guy, just like stripping the puck from them right away. So
Hmm.
I feel like part of it was just how the Panthers play, that they were really strong in that asset of the game in the neutral zone. So maybe we shouldn't totally blame the Sens because it is the Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah,
They've mastered all facets of the game to win the cup last season. So they're still a really good team, and they can make other teams look silly. And luckily, other than the goaltender, that the goaltender was the difference. We'll say that.
100%. Worth noting though that Florida is, now thanks to the Sens, without very key component in Nick Cousins. So,
Yeah.
it's they're missing them. They're missing them big time from that core. As far as home openers go, because you mentioned how the Sens always perform in home openers. I believe, I can't remember what it was on the broadcast. Was this home opener specifically, or was it just season openers? I believe leading into tonight's game, the Sens were 28-8-5 or something along those lines, or not
Hmm.
28-5. Sorry, 18-8-5.
Yeah, I'm not
Going
sure.
into
I didn't
those.
see that stat. But I do know, like, the last two seasons, I mentioned the home openers. The last two seasons as well, though, we always, both times we lost the season openers on the road. So it was nice to
Yeah,
actually have that first game at home for once, so we can actually say we started off the season fully on a good note.
Yeah. Also worth noting, for at least the second year in a row, I don't know if it's been going on for longer than this, but definitely for the second year in a row, the Sens, the only Canadian team not to play a Canadian team the first game of the season.
Yeah, I was I was hyping up all the Canadian matchups yesterday on the Game Over social media accounts, and then the Sens are just sitting around as the odd man out, just the
Yeah.
redheaded stepchild of the Canadian teams.
Yeah. Every other team gets to do a crossover episode to start for the second year in a row. It's just a totally Ottawa centric show, which maybe that's for the best. Maybe just leaving us to talk about the Sens. Maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah.
We don't have to share our broadcast time with anybody else in Canada, so that works out just fine. Anything else you want to touch on for the game without going into more specifics? I mean, obviously for the next two segments, we want to highlight a couple of players, and I mean, those players are it's going to be, focusing on this game specifically. But is there anything else you want to touch on before we move on to a specific player? Specific players want to put in the spotlight.
Yeah, just before that, I have to point out that the Corsi for the third period was
okay.
was 27.5% for the Sens and 72.5 for the Panthers, which I feel like is one of the worst I've ever seen.
Oh my
and
god.
that totally matches the eye test too.
Oh yeah.
The second period, it was 37%, so it dipped by a whole 10%. Actually, it went down by about 10 every period. First period, 48%, 37%.
Is that it for the
27.
first? Really?
Yeah, that's so that's 5-on-5.
Oh, that makes
if I
sense.
set
Okay.
if I set it to all situations, it goes up a little bit to 49%. But like,
Even then.
yeah, the stats back up the eye test on this game for sure. It's an ugly win, but it's a win nonetheless. So I
Yeah.
can't complain too much. We can't complain until these things start becoming patterns, really.
For sure. I do not want to look at the deserve to win a meter on this one.
Oh no, we
No.
don't need to screenshot that and post it on Twitter tonight. We don't need to.
No, definitely don't. With that, we'll move on to the second period. But before we do, just want to quickly take a moment to talk about just general plans for the future with the network. So we are now creator owned. We all have a stake in the company. We're all building it up ourselves. Maude and I specifically, like, I can really just only speak for the two of us. Like, I don't want to, lump anybody else in with us, but we've been doing a lot of like the graphic design, a lot of the video work. Just a lot of this is completely internal. We're kind of starting to do things completely on our own, and we're really building it all up. And because of that, we're just trying to look for some support wherever we can get it. So the plan is, this is not going to happen for a little bit, but keep your eyes open for, I believe, probably towards the end of November, we'll be launching a campaign on LaRouche, which is essentially like a Quebec-based GoFundMe alternative. Essentially, we're just trying to raise some money for the network, and if we hit our planned goal, essentially what that opens up is the ability to get some grants and just to make sure that everyone on the network can be paid fairly for their time, for their work, because everyone's been going above and beyond. It's really incredible to see what everyone's been doing, even just as far as like donating their time to it all. It's really, really impressive. So keep your eyes open for that. But in the meantime, if you are a Game Over fan, and I know there's a lot of you who have been with us for, basically, this is going to be the third season. We've been doing it for a season and a half leading up to this point, just because of how things got cut off last year. But essentially, right, this is season 3 of Game Over, season 1 of, we'll call real Game Over on our own network. So if you've been a longtime viewer and you want to find a way to support us, sharing it is obviously the easiest way to do it, and it goes a long way, and it won't cost you a thing. But if you've got some spare change in your pocket, we do have a Patreon that just launched, a bunch of different rewards available on there, including tomorrow night. If you're watching this tonight on the 10th, it'll be tomorrow. If you're watching this the next day on the 11th, you have just a little bit longer to get in there. We have a couple slots left in our Game Over Network Fantasy Hockey League. I believe at the moment we have 3 slots left, so jumping in. Oh, we're down to 2. Yeah, we're down to 2. Okay, so get on there quick. Yeah, get on there quick. It's a league of 16 teams, which I've never done before, which is going to be very terrifying. Anyway, if you want to throw some support our way, Patreon is a great way to do it. Also, we got merch. We have a brand new team in Winnipeg as far as the hosts go, but Brady has been working so hard behind the scenes, working on a bunch of merch for Game Over. You can go take a look at those right now on thegameovernetwork.com. The goalie hoodie specifically is so sick, and I want one ASAP. I'm grabbing one as soon as I can. But yeah, other than that, that's just to let you guys know that we're there are ways to support us if you want, and there's gonna be some big things happening in the next couple of months or so. So thank you all for the support already. I mean, it's already amazing to see the sub counts and everything for this. We've just started. It's great to see. So with that, we'll stop talking about ourselves and we're going to start talking about somebody else here in period number 2. Specifically,
pretty obvious who
we got to talk about Linus Ullmark. So
the story of the game right here. We are finally getting to it.
I can't believe I watched that many saves, that many tough saves being made by somebody in an Ottawa Senators jersey.
It's been so long. It's been so long
crazy.
Since we've had good goaltending. Like, there was the one year where Anton Forsberg had a bit of a hot streak, and then, but it was never on this level. He wasn't like stealing games on this level, I don't think.
The fact that we got to see Ullmark steal the first game that he plays for the Sens is like, I mean, he could have had just like a perfectly fine game, and I think it would have been totally fine. Like, I don't think that would have been an issue at all, but like, it just feels, I don't know how to describe how it feels. Like, it's been so long seeing having any confidence at all in the goaltending in Ottawa. And I think there's something to be said, especially about watching him do this just days after this same team in Florida absolutely rocked Korpisalo.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
The fact that it's been those two teams who've played against Korpisalo and Ullmark this close together.
That's really funny, actually.
It's something. It's like, I don't want to jump the gun here. Without a doubt, 100% Linus Ullmark is one of the top goalies in the league. If you don't think he's a top 10 goalie in the league, then like, watch more hockey. But like, it's just like the best way to put it is, things have been so like depressing in the world of the Ottawa Senators for so long that despite the fact that they acquired this elite goaltender, they've managed to extend him for 4 years before he's even played a game with the organization. Somehow I was still thinking he's going to forget how to play.
Yeah, I still have anxiety about that. It's like, when obviously Ullmark is the way better goalie, but when we brought in Matt Murray, we all convinced ourselves, we're like, oh, this is a good step forward. This goalie's worth $6 million. So we've kind of seen this before, of bringing in a goalie who's had success on a good team, with Murray winning the Stanley Cup. It's not quite the Vezina that Ullmark has to his name, but we have kind of seen a similar situation before. So yeah, I have that anxiety too, where it's like, we know Ullmark is really good, but once you start playing for the Ottawa Senators, once you enter the goalie graveyard, can you keep it up? And like, anyone that I've seen try to criticize the Ullmark trade or the signing, which is usually coming from outside of Ottawa, it's not in the fan base at all, because everyone in the fan base is fully on board. People outside, naysayers, they'll say like, well, as soon as he gets to Ottawa, he's just going to suck because the defense is way worse than Boston. There are advanced stats that go against that narrative, and I feel like this game goes against that narrative too, because the defense was certainly not doing him any favors. The team's puck management was not doing him any favors at all, and he already stole a game for the Ottawa Senators in his first regular season appearance. So in my mind, he has already earned the entire contract extension. Just give him all of that money tomorrow, because I love him already.
Oh yeah, I think we had a conversation in one of our episodes in the off season how like, I think he had maybe like, I think he had done one media availability, and then there was like a 3-minute long video of him like touring Canadian Tire Center.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We were both just like, okay, yeah, no, we love him. He's the best.
Yep. You could tell that he was going to like it here. You could tell that he was coming in with enthusiasm and like willingness to embrace this market as soon as he got here. And the fact that he showed up pretty early in the summer after the trade, like way before the training camp, he came to visit before even actually moving here. So everyone just loved Ullmark before he even played a game, and now we love him even more.
Yeah, Steos must have taken him to that IKEA. Like, the IKEA here is So good. It's
Oh my
huge.
God.
It's massive. Feels like home.
Yeah, that's why he feels at home. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Actually, wasn't it? Who was it? Was it Ian Mendez who his first interview with Eric Carlson was at IKEA?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Was
That's
it?
funny though.
If it wasn't meant, somebody had a first interview with Eric Carlson at IKEA back in
Just call up
oh
the Swedish player and be like, "Hey,
eight, I
meet me
guess.
at IKEA."
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so
Grab some
funny. What?
meatballs.
Yeah, we'll have some meatballs.
Yeah, we'll talk hockey over meatballs. Um, is there anything else you want to add to Allmark? Because like I feel like we could just talk about just like the revolving door of mediocrity that has been Ottawa goaltending since the departure of Craig Anderson. I don't know how many goalies there have been total that have played for the Sens since Craig Anderson left. I believe it was not this past season, but the
Well,
season before that. I
yeah,
think the Sens had like 7 goalies appear in
7
one
goalies in
season.
1 year, so it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
It's yeah, I don't want to know how many it's been, to be honest. Like the total number, it's awful. I don't want to say that no other franchise ever deals with struggling with a specific position like this, but I've personally, as a Sens fan who has been watching religiously and a concerning amount since the salary cap era started, I've never seen anything like that with Ottawa. Not just goaltending, I just mean like struggling with a specific position for so long.
Hmm.
It doesn't feel real almost having
Yeah,
this much
I think
confidence.
probably just to like close the book on the whole trade discussion, because obviously one of our last episodes was talking about the offseason and what our thoughts were on the Olmark trade. I
Mhm.
do remember saying that if Olmark walked at the end of the season, he only played 1 year for us, but he did well, that it was still a good trade just because unloading that Corpusalo contract for just the cost of the 25th overall pick and like Mark Kaslik was a throw into the deal. The fact that you now have Linus Olmark on an extension, you have him for 5 years, including the last year on his current contract. That is just a home run. Steve Stais hit it out of the park. A plus. And like I said, the bar was a little bit low because even if Olmark hadn't signed an extension, I still would have been happy with the move overall. But now
Right.
it's just amazing.
It's an incredible showing. Not It's been a while since we've looked at a trade on paper that even like you said it perfectly. Even without that contract, as it looks good, it felt like at the time it felt like a bit of a fleece. Um,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Yeah.
you know what? Actually, one thing I do want to bring up before we move on from Allmark is I don't know if you tuned into much of the stream last night on the Hub channel for the Game Over relaunch stream, but I believe it was Conrad, one of the new hosts for Calgary. Check out Game Over Calgary, folks. He asked the question just about the two big goalies that moved in the offseason. Who would you rather build your team around? Allmark or Jacob Markstrom?
Oh yeah.
I don't
Um,
remember all the answers, but I do want to put our boss, Andrew Berkshire, on blast because he picked Jacob Markstrom.
no. What the hell, Andrew? Just being
I
a Sens hater.
Yeah, I think it was him and somebody else definitely picked Markstrom. So I just want to understand, like, can you take that point of view and like try and understand it? Because I can't. I genuinely, it's not even just the Sens fan in me. Like, I don't. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can get that one.
So I think this question kind of depends on like how you frame the question, because also during one of the intermission segments on Sportsnet last night, they phrased the question between Olmark and Markstrom. They said, uh, who do you think will have the bigger impact on their team? Who is the more important acquisition? Um, and for that question, I was like, well, I can see it going either way because New Jersey is farther along as a team than the Sens. Like they should have been in the playoffs last year for sure, and the goaltending really let them down. Whereas the Sens, they could have been in the playoff race and the goaltending let them down. So it's like getting Markstrom for the Devils is a huge step forward for them. But Olmark is the better goalie. Olmark's peak in his career is better than Markstrom has been at any point. Um,
His floor
so
is
yeah,
considerably better than. I was looking at his stats. Allmark has one season below a 913.
yeah, that's crazy. Especially with save percentages around the league having dipped in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
Like last season, especially, they dipped a lot.
yeah. So all that to say, Sens fan or not, whatever, I prefer Allmark. So,
Yeah, we
on that,
love Linus Olmark.
we do. We already it's so early. It's so early, and we already love him so much.
Retire his number, put it in the rafters.
Yeah, game 2 at home. Just throw it up to the rafters.
Just raise the banner already. This is our Stanley Cup, beating the Panthers.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, with that, we're gonna move on to the third period. But before we do, we just want to give a quick shout out to other places on the network once again. So obviously, Game Over is going on. One fun show that's going to be happening this year is Game Over Winnipeg. Why is it fun? Because it is nothing but fresh faces. Unfortunately, we could not have Brady and Liss continue to host the show this season. So it's a bunch of brand new faces over in Winnipeg, and I think everyone's going to like them quite a bit. So far, there's technically been one episode of Game Over Winnipeg. It was the crossover against the Oilers last night. But if you want to check out the new hosts, go tomorrow night, actually. Yeah, the Jets are playing the Blackhawks tomorrow night, and that's going to be hosted by Ty. And after that, the game against the Wild on Sunday is going to be hosted by Brendan. So go check out Winnipeg's brand new team for Game Over and show them a bit of support, because they have some big shoes to fill, and I'm sure they're going to do a fantastic job.
Yeah, everyone, please go show our new hosts some love as they get into their first post-game shows.
And with that, we're going to move on to the third period. Who is the other player we want to spend far too much time raving about?
So it has to be Tim Stützle tonight with the 2 goals. The main thing I want to talk about, though, is, I mean, the first goal, obviously, because the second goal was an empty netter, but specifically that first goal, he physically could not shoot the puck like that last season. I have to say, like, Stützle is one of my favorite players, but last season was extremely frustrating to watch him play injured the whole year. You knew that he was almost never going to shoot the puck if he had an opportunity, unless it was like a breakaway and then he's going for a deke or something. His wrist just physically couldn't do it, and I was surprised that they didn't shut him down earlier in the season, considering we were way out of it. So seeing him back at full health now has me really excited. I wouldn't say it was a perfect game from him overall, but just I want to see this kid score goals, and he got that tonight, right? It's what was it? 1 power play goal for him in all of last season, and he already got that in the first game. So pretty good start, right?
Oh yeah. Definitely worth noting as well. Like you said, that injury. I believe it was like game 4 or something. He hurt his wrist, and it just never.
Yeah, it was right
recovered.
At the beginning.
They just didn't give him. He didn't have a chance for it to recover, and
I think it was a little bit of. I think it was a little bit of the season starting to go off the rails, and they wanted to save it. When Jacques Martin came in to take over the coaching, it was like, okay, we gotta have the new coach bump. You don't want to put your number 1 center on the shelf at that point to try to rehab an injury. It's like, okay, play through it and hope that they can figure it out, but they never did. So I was surprised that he didn't get shut down like at any point last year until like the last couple games.
Yeah, you think once it's kind of out of reach, they're thinking, okay, well, we better play it safe. But at the very least, it didn't stop him from the baseball goal in Sweden.
Yeah, at least we have that. It's like it's crazy because the season before he scored like 38 goals or 39 goals, almost 40 goals. His goal total was basically cut in half last year, and yet the most memorable goal of his career is from last season with that baseball goal. Like I remember that way more than I remember any of his goals the year before, even though he scored double the amount that year.
Yeah, it's almost not even worth saying, because like it goes without saying about everybody on every single team. But if he stays healthy this season, I think he's going to absolutely demolish his career highs and everything. And I can't wait to see it. Before we talk a little bit more about Timmy, just worth noting the 4th section of the show, overtime. That's when we're going to be looking at the chat. We're going to be talking to the chat, answering questions. So if you're watching and you're enjoying it, and you just want to throw out a question or even just like an opinion about tonight's game, an opinion about the Sens in general, the Panthers, whoever you want to talk about, whatever. Toss it in the chat. The whole point of the fourth section of the show is just for a little bit of audience interaction. So feel free to toss out anything you have in mind into the chat, and we'll talk to you guys about that afterwards. Just wanted to bring that up before I got to the the fourth section. Went, oh, I forgot to tell him to do that. So there's your call to action, folks. Throw some thoughts in the chat, and we'll get to that in the next segment. So I need to okay, so because you brought it up already, that whole he scored one power play goal last season in total, which I guess makes sense. I mean, a lot of power play goals are not, you don't score on the power play so much on dekes, right? It's a lot of setting up the forecheck and everything, but like bum wrist or not, that is an absurd number for someone who's nearly a 40 goal scorer the year before.
I know, right? It's just, I think the injury changed his style of play where he was just always looking for the pass, because if he did go for the shot, he knew that it wasn't going to be what it should be, what his shot can be. So I think he was almost afraid to shoot because his shot was totally hampered by the injury. I think he just wasn't even looking to ever shoot, it felt like.
Yeah, he definitely was much more of a pass first guy. I mean, person that comes to mind is also in Sweden. I think it was against Minnesota when he had that spin pass from the corner and found Tkachuk on the other side of the net. That ridiculous pass, like, clearly didn't affect his passing, but his shot was, and you're exactly right. He did not shoot like that at all last season on that first goal.
It sucks too, because I remember I went to a preseason game last year, which I think was against the Leafs, and he absolutely sniped one bar down on the power play. Actually on the other side of the ice than where he was tonight. So kind of on his forehand side, which is more interesting too, because usually you go for the one-timers on the power play, but when I saw him take that shot in that game, I was like, this kid is going to explode this year and get 100 points. And then he had that injury, and then it was just really sad. It was really depressing all year. So I wish the best for Tim Stützle this year. And I want to ask you, could he get 100 points this year?
Yeah. Oh my, like without a doubt, without any kind of doubt, 100% he can score 100 points. I think he can crack more than 40 goals, but like, and I mean, granted, this was my opinion following that breakout, like not quite 40 goal, 90 point season, where I was like, this guy is going to be a career 40 goal, 100 point player. He just looks, even just tonight, like the way he like. So okay, so I'm gonna be honest here. Cards on the table. Last season, around the time that Game Over was canned, I didn't watch a lot of Sens hockey.
I knew what you were gonna say right away.
It's just one of those things where like I'm watching the game and I don't know what it is. After a year and a half, you get into a routine, right? Like I'm sure you're the exact same as me. You're watching the game and you're like, okay, I got to talk about this on the show. I'm taking notes. Planning the show.
It was weird to watch the games and just have my brain turned off and like not try to notice things and stuff like that.
Yeah, the whole time I was like, it's okay. I'll just skip most of the games. At least I have the Toronto Blue Jays to make me happy in the summer. Whoops.
Until now. Oh god.
Yeah. So I didn't watch a ton last season. So maybe what I was seeing tonight, is partially the fact that he's healthy again, but I think another part of it is just the fact that it's been a while since I really tried watching the Sens as detailed as I possibly can be. But oh my god, does Stützle stand out compared to everybody the second the puck is on his stick. It's unbelievable. His hands, even just like the way he maneuvers around the ice, like just skating from like if he's the guy doing the whatever, like the give and go with Sanderson along the blue line, pass the puck, they kind of switch sides. Even just him, like no one's on it. Just the speed at which he's handling the puck is just bonkers. No one else on the team looks anything like him handling the puck, and I mean, like obviously that's not like going to translate to 50 goals or whatever, but it's just small stuff like that makes me go, okay, this is a very, very special player that we have in Ottawa.
You're totally right that his stick handling is like leagues above anyone else on the team, because I would say probably the next closest guys are like Giroux and Batherson, but they do not have like the pure stick handling agility that Stützle has, the speed that he's able to make these moves, and while skating at speed too. Like it's on another level. You're totally right about that.
Unbelievable to watch. I'm so excited for and I will go double fingers crossed healthy season out of
Hmm.
Tim Stützle, because I think it's a very underrated part of last season because everyone was just so focused on Norris and the constant in and out of Shabbat in the lineup as well. Like I mean, granted, like I think it's just kind of known now that if you're a player in the NHL, you're banged up basically all year long. Like we're going to get like 3 games maybe where everyone is mostly healthy, and then somebody's going to be dealing with something for the rest of the season. But we can just if this team stays healthy, I know it's 1 game. I don't care. I'm excited. I'm very excited to be able
Yeah.
to. This team managed to steal a win against the defending champs based on a phenomenal goaltending performance where the rest of the team mostly didn't play great. Imagine what this team can do when the team, puts together a solid 60 minutes.
I think that's a good way of looking at it, to take the positive route here, is that even though it wasn't a pretty game, it's a great start to beat the defending Stanley Cup champions, no matter how you do it. A win is a win. So hopefully only up from here.
That's right. And with that, we're going to head on to our overtime segment where we are going to be looking at the chat. But before that, we're going to do one more shout out that everyone should go check out Game Over Calgary. Did you notice how we only shouting out the Western teams? Because I refuse to.
You don't want to shout out the rivals? Oh my
No,
God.
don't want to shout the rivals. Not that the rivals don't need any more views. They're fine. So over in Game Over Calgary, a bunch of new faces over there as well. We got Peter returning. Game Over vet Peter Klein. Love that guy. He's a sweetheart. He's the best. We love you, Peter. And a whole bunch of new faces. So obviously another reason to go check them out is the new faces. They're all wonderful people so far. And let me just see what we've got on deck for Calgary. So obviously the first game would be that Flames Canucks game, which was nuts.
That was ridiculous. I went to bed when it was still 4-1, and oh my God, I just assumed that the Canucks won, and then I see messages in the Game Over Discord just referring to the Flames winning, and I'm like, I didn't believe it. I was like, I couldn't. So I'm sure they had a fun show after that one.
Yeah, so you can go check that one out. Kaya and Conrad were on that one. And next up for Game Over Calgary is on Saturday against the Flyers. That's going to be hosted by Conrad again, and Anand's going to join him for that one. So 2 fresh faces in Calgary on Saturday night. So be sure to check out Game Over Calgary after that game against the Flyers. You get to watch a Canadian team in Calgary, and then you get to watch a team that exists in Philly.
Hey, they got Mitchkov now.
They got Mitchkov.
The Flyers, for the first time in like 4 seasons, have a reason to watch their games. To be fair,
that's fair. You know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm actually kind of like a sucker for like tuning into games when there's one player I want to watch. So
yeah, I think when we're done here, I'm gonna go turn on the Sharks game just because of Celebrini.
That's fair. That's very fair. Okay, so let's head on over to overtime.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the chat. Have you noticed anything in the chat so far?
Yes, we'll start with our friend Terry McGurran, who asks if we envision the same lineup for Saturday for the game against Montreal. Basically, would you make any lineup changes based on what you saw tonight? And I guess based on who the healthy scratches are.
That's a great question, Terry. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. For those of you who want to see more of Terry, he's going to be on the show with me following the Vegas game later on in the month. The same line. I mean, like, what's the change you can make? Put JBD in?
Yeah, that's the thing. Your 2 options are maybe JBD coming in, and then on forwards it's Zach McEwen. I kind of wonder if you bring in Zach McEwen just because it's a game against the Habs. Just deal with Mr. Goon over there with Doug Glatt over there on the Habs.
Yeah.
But also, like, that could apply to Travis Hamonic too. Like, ideally, I think JBD should be playing ahead of Travis Hamonic like most of the time, unless he particularly has a bad game to take him out of the lineup. But Hamonic might be useful against the Habs if we need someone to punch some faces, you know?
Yeah, I like I want to ice I want the Sens to ice a team that gives them the best chance of winning. But I also don't want Kachuk to have to be the guy to deal with Jack-Eye. Like I want to be able to
Yeah,
put somebody
exactly.
else in the lineup that like, and I don't want, and I hate saying that because like it's like defending the whole goon thing, and like no, I don't want there. It's like the whole like Ryan Reeves in Toronto is going to stop anyone from messing with Matthews and like that's not
Yeah,
how it
that has
works.
not worked.
It's not how it works. So like I don't know. I just don't want.
Hamonic or
Yeah,
anyone else like that in there. So I don't mind it just because of that. You don't need Kachuk going after Jack-Eye unless it's some bull crap like what he pulled in that preseason game with the hit on Stutzla. At that moment, Kachuk should fight Jack-Eye, and then of course that's when Jack-Eye turtles. So I don't know, not to rant too much about Jack-Eye, but in terms of the lineup, I won't blame Travis Green if he gets the toughness in there. Like I could easily see McEwen going in instead of Gaudet for that game.
yeah. Good luck to Damien on Saturday night, by the way. Dealing with
Yeah.
that Habs chat. Oh my god.
Oh God.
Uh, so yeah, I don't know because like, and you know what? You know what? Like, fair. Like, props to Hamnick. I barely noticed him tonight, which is a good sign. I
Yeah,
think.
I feel like with pretty much all of the defense pairs getting hemmed in their zone for the entire second half of the game, it's hard for me to single out Hamonic or Clevin as his partner for that matter. Although I did notice, let me just double check who it was on Twitter. Reynard on Twitter, he he had the expected goals for percentages at 5-on-5 tonight, and Clevin was dead last with a 7.41%.
Oh my
So
god.
I don't see Hamonic's number here, but I'm assuming it wasn't much better. So that leads me to believe at least that that pairing was the one getting hemmed in the most, but they were all getting hemmed in a lot.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, I don't know how much I can single them out tonight with just how the game went.
That's really fair. Um, because I mean, like, they're not gonna run Hamnick and JBD as the third pair, having two righties. I don't think. Well,
I
actually, I don't
hope
know.
not.
Like,
I hope we don't ever see that.
no, I don't know
I
what
don't
the
like that.
I don't know what the other options are really like. Because you're not gonna. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Clevin's big. He had a really nice hit on Reinhardt. Did he hit
Yeah,
Reinhardt? Was it?
Reinhardt, that
Yeah,
was a good one.
it was a great hit. So like, there's some physicality there, obviously. Big guy. I don't know what you do. Like, do you give Montreal the wrong idea if like you're going into this game and you're specifically putting McEwen in the lineup? Like, are they going to go, okay, well now we got to start some shit?
It could be. I don't know. Like Montreal seems to be continuing this narrative of, oh, we have to protect our own players from getting injured. And it's like, okay, Kirby Doc wasn't injured. He came back to the game and scored. So what the hell are you talking about? So I don't know. I feel like we can't predict how Montreal will act regardless because they have this victim narrative in their heads that everyone is out to get their star players. All our boogeymen players are going to come kill their star players who are like 30-point career highs. But I don't know. I should. This is not the Montreal game. I should
Yeah.
not be roasting Montreal so much.
You are making Damien's job so much harder right now.
Hey, well, Damien doesn't have to go that hard on them. It just depends if any Habs fans are
Yeah,
watching this,
that's
and then
that's fair.
they can come yell at me on Twitter. That's fine.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, no, that's a great question from Terry though. That's a really, really good question. I imagine they'll keep the lineup the same unless they're like, you know what, JBD's a huge improvement on Hamonic, or yeah, maybe they just. I mean, okay, so you put McEwen in, who's coming out?
Probably Goddard, I think.
Okay, that's fair.
He wasn't bad tonight, I would say, but although
No,
the offensive zone penalty was kind of bad,
yeah,
you don't like seeing that from your fourth line. But yeah, if they want toughness, I think that's probably the move to make.
for sure. What else we got here? Let's see
Uh,
here.
Another one I wanted to point out was Conrad asks, how much progress do you foresee in Shane Pinto's game without the gambling thing hanging over his head? And I think that's really interesting, actually, because I don't know this for sure, but I feel like Pinto played in almost every preseason game. Like I swear every preseason game I watched, he was in there, regardless of like if the rest of the lineup was very good. They're trying to get him as many reps as possible, it seems, after only playing half the season last year, which
Yeah.
is funny because I felt like when he came back last year, he was still really good. It was like if he didn't miss a beat at all, but it really seems that they want him to take a huge step forward this year. And, he started on the third line, but if Norris ever goes down again, hopefully not, fingers crossed. Or if
Don't
Stützle's
say that
injured
out
or anything.
loud.
If we need to make any changes, like Shane Pinto, I think is already a second line center in my mind. It's a luxury to be having Shane Pinto on your third line at this point, and I think he's gonna prove that this year.
Yeah, heading into the season, I kind of pictured him being the second line center and like moving Norris to the wing just to feel safe.
Yeah, a lot of
Just
people were
'cause-
thinking about that.
Yeah, but I mean, if Norris is feeling good enough, this is so stupid that this is like an actual thing to reference. If Norris is healthy enough to take face-offs, that's so stupid. But
Yeah. Oh God.
if
You
he's
never
healthy
know
enough to
though.
yeah, if he's healthy enough
I
to
get
take
scared.
face-offs, fine.
I get
Yeah.
scared every time Norris takes a face off or every time he like goes into the boards whatsoever. I'm scarred
Ugh.
at this point.
It's brutal. But like even then, like I mean, I guess like Pinto's just so strong. Like the idea of him as a third line center is just like almost too good to pass up. But I was almost surprised that they didn't put him on the wing playing with Norris and Batherson and trying
Hmm.
Greg at third line center. But you know what? Like that center depth is something that's so necessary for a strong team and like that have any hopes of not even a run in the playoffs, but just getting to the playoffs. Just because like unless you have three, top six quality centers, like somebody's going to get hurt eventually. Um,
Even if
yeah,
it's a winger getting hurt, you can, like we're talking about, putting one of Norris or Pinto or Greg, shifting them around from center to wing. So even if a winger
yeah,
gets hurt, we might see any like Pinto moving up to the top six. And
yeah.
there's that stat about it. There's only like 20, somewhere between 20 and 30 games where this has actually happened. But the stat of when Stützle, Norris, and Pinto are all in the lineup, the Sens record is really good, which unfortunately is a small sample size, but it's like fingers crossed once again that if they can all stay healthy this year, that could be a good omen. Maybe that stat will continue.
Would be nice. Would be very, very nice. Um, and yeah, I mean, like most of what the team did, like management was doing in the offseason was like, like adding to the depth. So, and obviously this depends on how he plays. We're only one game in, but like if there is, an injury to a winger in the top six, like in theory, David Perron should be able to step up no problem to the second
Hmm.
line. So
Yeah.
there's some flexibility there for sure, with some of the offseason acquisitions.
I've noticed in the chat, Ty Smith said, "Let's go grab the last slot in the fantasy league." Um, I don't know if I
The
can. I
last
don't.
slot.
Yeah, it might be full
Oh,
now.
I'm gonna just have to check the app there.
If
My
I'm
God.
understanding correctly, yeah, I tried to pull up the Yahoo, but I'm not logged in.
Let's take a look here. This is big.
That's gonna be fun. Yeah, tomorrow the plans aren't like fully set yet, but we might be live streaming our fantasy draft like with the Zoom call and everything on the Game Over Network channel. Not totally confirmed yet, but keep an eye out for that if you think that's something you might enjoy. It'll be another sort of chill hangout stream, kind of like the one that y'all were doing yesterday.
The fantasy league is full.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's
That's
gonna be really
awesome.
fun.
It's a deep league too. It's like
I've never done
16
such a deep
teams.
one. We're gonna be
16
drafting
teams.
fourth liners
It's
at the end of
that's
it.
amazing. Yeah, just like, grab your hits. Grab your hits.
Mhm.
That's awesome though. Okay, well, welcome to the league. Welcome to the league, Ty. And yeah, so sorry if you are watching this after the fact and then you're like, I'm gonna join that fantasy league, and
No,
then
it is full. It is
it's
full. I'll
full.
have to delete the tweet about it, advertising it.
That's fair. Yeah. Let's see here. From Newbie Sports, I wanted that spinorama pass Stützle made to connect so bad. Yeah, me too. Me too.
Oh, that
Um,
was when he was in on the rush and tried to drop it back to Brady, right? Yeah,
yeah,
that would have been filthy, and it was the right idea too. Like from a bird's eye in the sky view, I'm looking at that. It's like almost a video game view where I'm like, that's what I
Yeah.
would do. That's what I would do in the video game. That's the right thing to
Yeah.
do, even though it's like a crazy play to go for the behind the back pass. But it was the right idea, but just Brady wasn't quite in the right spot for where Stützle put it. That would have been so sick though.
So nice. Um, let's see here. Sanderson played 25 minutes. Really? God, maybe it doesn't feel like he did because it just felt like so much of this game the Sens were getting absolutely friggin'
Yeah,
killed in
I
their own
think
zone.
I think him playing most of the power play time boosted that a little bit. We only had the
Yeah.
three power plays, but he was on the first unit every time. Other than that, like it was pretty even.
Yeah. Another one from Newbie Sports. How bummed were y'all when Yak was sent back down? And then
Oh yeah.
the DGs says Yak will be back. And yeah, I mean like I, I was bummed, but like it makes sense.
It
Right?
makes sense. I have to wonder if we kept him on the roster and he played in this game tonight and everything else is the same. Uh, I wonder if, on one hand, I wonder if he would have been able to help the breakout or if he would have just been getting totally hemmed in like everyone else did tonight. It might have been a rough time for him. We know he's really good offensively, but they still want him to work on like the rest of his game, right? So I think it would have been fun to see him get some regular season games, but in the end, I'm not too bummed that he got sent down. The only thing that I hate though is that when you're 19 and you're sent back to the CHL, you can't get called up at any point because man, if we have we've been talking about this a lot. If we have any injuries to the top 4D, it's gonna get sketchy really quick.
Oh yeah.
So if you could just call up Yakimchuk just like on an emergency basis, that would be sweet. But of course, the rules don't allow for that, so that sucks. Especially because like I mean, not so much that you can't call up a guy from the CHL, but if Yakimchuk was able to play in the AHL in Belleville, that would be amazing because I feel like he's ready for that.
Oh,
And I
100%.
would love to watch him tear it up down there. Instead, we're gonna have to watch him tear it up in Calgary in the WHL. But yeah, I wish we could still have the ability to call him up. That's the only thing that I'm bummed out about.
That would be great. On the bright side though, the World Juniors are in Ottawa this year, so
That's gonna be sick,
very good chance you're gonna be able to see him play for Team Canada. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get to any Canada games. I might be able to buy tickets off somebody. We'll see. All I know is I'm going to Sweden, Kazakhstan.
Oh
That's gonna
my
be fun.
god.
That's gonna be a fun game. I believe the Sens have a prospect on. Is it Sweden's
Don't
goalie?
we don't we have like a goalie from Kazakhstan, or am
Is
I
it
just
maybe
imagining
Kazakhstan's
that?
name? I
Is
think
it
the
is
Sens
it
have somebody
his
on
name
both
is like
teams.
Nikitin or something?
Yeah, seventh round pick.
Or is he just Russian and I've just imagined that he was from
I'm
Kazakhstan?
making stuff up right now. I'm just like I think it's anyway. I'm gonna go see
Here,
Sweden,
here,
Kazakhstan
wait. I'm fact checking myself.
yeah,
I'm correct.
nailed it.
Vladimir Nikitin, seventh round pick. You were right about that. Seventh round pick.
Yes. Okay.
He is from Kazakhstan. We were not just imagining that. We are not entirely crazy.
Awesome. Well, that game is not gonna be held at CTC if you can imagine that. That's gonna be one of the games at TD Place. So that's gonna be a good time. I'm looking forward to that one. But yeah, I'll just be watching Yakimchuk on TV. I guess there's no way he doesn't crack Team Canada's roster.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Especially they often favor the slightly older guys, and he's already 19, so I feel like that helps his chances too.
Hell yeah, it's gonna be a good time. But yeah, I don't think it's worth rushing Yakimchuk at this point. I think like whether you buy into the whole like overvaluing right shot D or whatever, like maybe the reason I do is because we've seen this team with like Shabbat, Sanderson, and Chikrin all being left shots, and just feeling like every pairing has some kind of anchor other than whoever Zub's playing with. But having some confidence in that, and like I'm like I've spent too much time. As good as Sanderson Zub is, I'm picturing like 2 years down the line and watching Sanderson Yakimchuk.
Exactly.
Oh, oh, it's gonna be so good.
Even having Yakimchuk as another one-timer threat on the power play too, like that power play goal he scored against Montreal. Oh my God, absolute rocket. That's gonna be sick.
I'm really looking forward to that. But no, this season we're paused about this season. We don't need to. I don't need to think about 2 years down the line
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever to be happy. This
But it's
season is going to be
good.
great.
It's good to be that hyped about our recent top pick, though, because I think a lot of people, he wasn't really on a lot of people's radar coming up to the draft. Like a
Yeah.
lot of the other defensemen that were ranked in the top 15 or so, people were really looking at those other names, I felt like. So when they picked them, I was kind of like, oh, they picked the guy that no one was talking about. Again, that seems to be how it always goes with the Sens in the first round, but it's looking good so far. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited about Yakimchuk.
Yeah, I try not to get too like deep into draft picks and everything just because I'm stupid. I don't pay that much attention to the draft class. Like, who wasn't kind of upset that the Sens took Sanderson over Drysdale? Like, most people were.
Yeah, I'm glad to say that I knew that the Sens were going to pick Sanderson, and I was championing it from before the pick happened. No one knows this because I wasn't public yet. We weren't doing this show yet or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I was Galaxy Brain on
Yeah.
Sanderson.
I was also not thrilled. I don't want to say this live. I was not thrilled about the Brady Tkachuk pick, but
That was a whole mess back then when we picked Tkachuk.
yeah.
There was I got in a lot of internet forum arguments back then. I don't know if anyone was on HF boards back in the day in that cesspool.
What
I
a
don't
poll. What a
yeah.
poll. Wow.
I stayed
Yeah.
on that website for way too long. I was still on that website until like I started Game Over, and then I was like, all right, fuck this. Fuck this. I'm just gonna go on Twitter
I have
instead.
somewhere else to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people being like, "Oh, Kachuk is going to be a fourth liner. At best, Kachuk is going to be Wayne Simmons, and and he's already better than that. So he was better than that by like his second season. So
Yeah.
sometimes we just have to eat crow on prospects,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is very fun.
I'm very used to it. I mean, granted, I mean, keep in mind I was 15 at the time, but I was like jumping up and down, so excited, screaming because the Sens took Cody Ceci in 2012.
Yeah, I was excited for
thrilled.
that too.
I was so excited. Cody Ceci and Shane Prince were gonna take Ottawa
Oh,
to the
Shane
promised land.
Prince. Oh my God! Don't forget Matt Pumple as well.
Oh, Matt Pumple. Well, he was the CHL Rookie of the Year.
Yep,
So,
he's a big goal scorer next Danny Heatley.
That's right. Anyway,
We could go through memory lane on Sens
Yeah.
draft picks forever if we
Yeah.
wanted to.
maybe we'll grab a couple more things from the chat. From Adam Firebear, long time Game Over viewer and supporter. Adam Firebear, we're so back! 20 exclamation points. Maude and Charlie,
Yes.
20
Hell yeah.
exclamation points. What's up, Adam? Glad to see you back in the chat. We are, in fact, so back.
Yes, so glad to see Adam back in the chat and everyone else. I recognize most of these names in the chat, so glad to see you all back. Shout out to all of you for returning for the first show back. It's awesome to it's kind of a new beginning, kind of building up from nothing now. So having some people returning right away is really heartwarming to see.
It's a huge deal. It honestly, it is such a huge deal. And on that note, also, obviously we are now no longer on a channel with close to 100,000 subscribers, so the algorithm is not doing us any favors. So if you're enjoying Game Over, specifically Ottawa, please subscribe to Game Over Ottawa and leave a like on the stream, and for that matter, go subscribe to every single Game Over market because it's just quality across the board. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we call it a night on the first show of the 24-25 season? I can't believe it's the 24-25 season. Oh my God.
It makes me feel old because I always play the freaking EA Sports franchise mode and then playing it a few years ago and being like, oh, 24-25, that's so far away. And we're here. We're here now.
Yeah.
I'm getting old. One other thing that caught my eye in the chat was a newbie sports said Mark Kostelik scored the same number of goals as Tim Stützle tonight, and I didn't know that, so that made me laugh. Actually, Boston won the trade.
I think you're right. I think you might be right. And we got to see what that first round pick turns into as well, I guess.
Yeah, don't even remember who they drafted, and I'm not going to concern myself with it. Another thing, we were talking about the prospects, another thing that is way that I need to disconnect myself from as a fan is when my team trades away a pick, and like especially a first round pick, and then the other team picks someone and it's like, oh, now we got to keep an eye on that guy because that's who we would have had. That's who we would have had if we had this draft pick. And it's like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's very David Rundblad for the pick that was Tarasenko.
definitely.
I completely agree. I need to stop doing that too. What I will not stop doing is doing that for teams I hate.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If it's the Leafs, we bring it up. We bring it up
If
every
it's the
time.
Leafs, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, an example is the Leafs trading the pick that became Roman Yossi. I know for sure
I'm not
it's
sure.
the Leafs traded the pick that became Scott Niedermayer.
Yeah, I was gonna say Scott Stevens, but you're right, it's Niedermayer.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just an example of like, yeah, you can look at that, but also like, who's to say that the team would have drafted that player anyway?
Exactly,
So,
especially with the Sens drafting in recent years, they'll pick some guy who's ranked 10 spots lower. So
the Sens trading down with the Rangers so they can pick Andre Miller.
I'm still mad about that. I will remain mad about that. Not because I was sure that the Sens were going to pick Miller or anything, but just because I wanted them to. So that's
Right.
different.
Yeah,
That's different.
that is different. That's completely different. Um, I think we gotta call it there. I mean, we've been going for over an hour now. I think it's time to call it on the first episode of the inaugural Game Over Ottawa on the Game Over Network, which is pretty amazing to say. We've been working up to this, like obviously, all through the summer we've been making some off-season content, but just like when we decided as a group that we wanted to all come back and give it a real shot on our own terms. At the time, game one felt so far away, and all of a sudden it's here. We're back in it.
Glad to be back.
Absolutely. Well, just like Maude said earlier, it's so great to see so many familiar names in the chat. Thank you all so much for coming back. And just like I said earlier as well, we are no longer being helped out by streaming on a big channel, so our reach isn't super great right now. So if you can subscribe, leave a like, and most importantly, I think if you have somebody in your life that you think would enjoy the Game Over show, whether they're a Sens fan or a Flames fan or a Jets fan or whatever, share around the shows. We have a show for every Canadian market, so every hockey fan in Canada, or at the very least every hockey fan who cheers for a Canadian team, has something to watch, and it's all really great additions to the team. Obviously, we have a lot of returning people, but the additions for all the different markets are all fantastic as well. So, if nothing else, please, we would like appreciate it so much if you can share it around and get some more eyes on us, because that's the hardest thing is getting eyes on the product in the early stages like this. But all that to say, so far we've all been blown away by the response from obviously not just this, but Game Over Montreal/Toronto happened last night, and that was great. Just the general support on everything so far has been really phenomenal. I guess with that we're gonna call it a night. Any last word?
Yeah,
the
one last thing to note is that the next game against Montreal is a crossover episode. It will be Damian Smith making his Game Over debut. I was going to say Game Over Ottawa debut, but the point that I'm making is that that's going to be on the Game Over Montreal channel, because the crossover games where we have a host from each market are going to be on the home team's channel. So when the other Canadian teams come to Ottawa, we'll have those here. But for any road games against the other Canadian teams, you're going to have to go to the other team's channel. We'll probably post something, the day of, saying like, oh, the game is going to start, make sure you go to this channel because it's going to be over there, something like that. But just so everyone knows, the next game is going to be on Game Over Montreal, but we will have Montreal and Ottawa both represented, so that's going to be a fun one.
That's a really good point. Thank you for pointing that out. I completely forgot about that. So all the more reason to go and subscribe to every single Game Over channel in the network. All right, well, I guess I have to hit stop streaming here. So
unfortunately, we have to stop streaming eventually.
Yeah, this was a blast. This was so much fun to finally have our big return. So thank you again, everyone, for watching so much. Damien and Andrew are gonna be covering the next game on Saturday, and then I guess we're probably back on the game. I should just look at the schedule. I should be a professional about
The
it.
next game after that is Thanksgiving Monday in the afternoon. I believe it's going to be me and Nick. So it'll be Nick Robinson's introduction to the show.
Perfect. So you're going to get 2 new hosts for Game Over Ottawa in the next 2 games. That's real fun, and it's going to be a blast seeing those guys get their start here. So thank you again for watching. I promise I'm going to stop streaming now. So we'll catch you next time. Go Sens go, and never forget that the Florida Panthers just got sensed. We'll see you next time.